Hello, welcome to Uncle Milo's Story Corner. I'm Uncle Milo, and this next story is a piece of science fiction that I wrote myself. So remember, this is just a piece of science fiction. It's not a fairy tale, but it's an interesting story I think you'll enjoy. When You Wish Upon a Star by Milo Tsukroff. Okay, so here's my story, and there's no way I'm going to prove it to you, so you either believe it or don't. It doesn't matter to me either way. My mom was a movie star. Her professional name was Tiffany Stardust. I know, sounds pretty risque, but that's what it was. Every year on Mom's birthday, Dad took out the special movie equipment and set it up. He had an old 35mm projector and these huge reels. He played his old favorite movies every year from when Mom was a child star. Then he added a few new movies every year. Sometimes there would be TV shows where Mom was the star. Later, she showed up in a lot of cameos in other TV shows. Dad always said, "Tiffany, you're so beautiful." And Mom always said, "Oh, Roger, really?" But I knew that she really liked the attention. So I grew up telling everyone at school that my mom was a movie star. She was also at home every day when I got home. I figured that she did her movies at night when I was asleep. When I finally learned the truth, it was quite a shock. I was in 7th grade when my best friend Tony told me, "There isn't any actress named Tiffany Stardust. I've never seen her on TV." "That's because they don't show her stuff around here," I told him. "Dad says they show it on the coast." "You've seen your mom's movies?" he asked, grinning. "Yeah," I told him. "Well, I bet they're dirty movies," he said. I got red and punched him hard. Tony got up slowly, shaking his head. "You okay?" I asked. "It's just, it's my mom." Tony rubbed his cheek. He had a funny grin on his face. Then he hit me back. After our fight to make up, I brought him over to my house and asked Dad to show Tony some of Mom's movies. Even though it wasn't Mom's birthday, he set up the big projector and the sound system and played 3 of my favorites: Will-O-the-Wisp, Danger Lady, and the James Bond movie, Thrilling Cities. Tony went home full of my mom's acting, and he and I were the best of friends again. After that, though, I began to keep a cautious eye on my mom. Over the next few years, I kept my eyes open and my mouth shut. Something really was funny about the situation. I searched movie indexes in the library. Not the school library, but the big library, the one over on the corner of Main and Maple. There was nothing there at all about Tiffany Stardust. I tried her real name before she was married. Her maiden name, Judy Podhoretz. Nothing there either. Then I checked for the movies she had starred in. Some of the first ones had been made. Someone else had starred in them. Most of the later movies just didn't seem to exist. The past few years, Dad had upgraded to some kind of special electronics that showed videos on a special TV. That equipment wasn't anything like they sold in any of the stores that I went to. That didn't make sense either. I was in 10th grade when this whole thing finally came to a crisis. Dad came back from his annual fishing trip with his brother. He always went the week before Mom's birthday. Dad walked in and called out, "Where's my movie star wife?" Mom blushed but smiled and gave him a big kiss. "Here's the latest," Dad crowed. 16 episodes of the smash TV series Frisco Broke. 2 Emmys, I'll have you know. "Well, put it on, honey," Mom urged him. Dad didn't have to be asked twice. He rushed through the living room and put something in somewhere. The TV screen lit up and the show was on. I stood there watching. This wasn't my mom. No, it wasn't my mom at all. She had never gone out of the house all year. This show, Frisco Broke, had her running around the Bay Area, driving expensive cars, jumping off bridges, flying airplanes, navigating fast boats, scuba diving, shooting guns, all sorts of exciting things. But she hadn't been farther than Cincinnati all year. I knew that. She couldn't have done that. It was only the first episode, but I blew my top. "Stop it!" I screamed. Mom and Dad looked at me, frozen. "Stop it! It isn't real!" I screamed again. Dad quietly hit the remote and stood up. He looked real nasty at me for a moment. Then he took a breath of air and slowly said, "What's the problem?" "It isn't real!" I shouted. I was crying. I couldn't contain myself. "None of that's real. It's not Mom there. It can't be. It's all made up. I don't know how you did it, but it's all fake." Then I smashed my fist against the wall and ran out of the house, crying. Dad caught up with me a while later. "James, I owe you an explanation," he said to me. "Don't say anything. Just come with me. Now." We got into the car and drove. "Where are we going?" I finally asked. "Over to my brother's house," Dad said. "I need to show you something that's hard to explain in words. You have to see it, and then I think you'll understand." "One thing," Dad said a little while later, "I love your mom more than anything else in the world. I would go beyond the ends of the earth for her. You must remember that. I love her beyond anything." My uncle was surprised at first when we got there, but Dad told him he's figured some of it out. He knows that Judy didn't make any of this year's Frisco Broke episodes. Uncle Bob nodded. "Uh-huh, so let's show him." He stood next to Dad. "Well?" he asked after a while. "Well, what?" I asked. "What do you think?" Uncle Bob asked. "Do we look alike?" Yeah, you're twin brothers. Yeah, you're supposed to look alike. Dad said seriously, we're not twins. We're the exact same person. But I'll have to show you more. Uh-huh, right, I said. I was not impressed. They were identical twins, that was all. At least that's what I thought at that point. Uncle Bob led us to his barn. Whenever I was there, it was locked up and always off limits. Enormous power cables led into the building. Sheets of steel kept the equipment inside carefully safe from view. I had never been allowed in here. There was some sort of burglar system, and the only time I had tried, when I was 8, I had been caught before I even got inside. Uncle Bob hadn't been mad. He had just told me never, ever to try that again. And now I was going to be shown what was inside. We went in. Just like I had always thought, there was all sorts of mad scientist stuff in here. A big machine stood in a concrete pit, power lines leading in all over. The electricity hummed loudly in the huge, quiet room in the center of the barn. "This is it," Dad said. He sat down in a chair, motioned to me to sit down on another chair. "Soda?" he offered. I took the can of pop and opened it. "So that's that. So what's that?" I asked, pointing to the big machine. "Time machine or something?" "Yes, it's a time machine or something," Dad said, "but it's not exactly what you think." Uncle Bob chimed in. "Time travel is impossible. I told you that last summer. Flat out takes too much energy." "You got a lot of energy here," I countered. "Yep, and we're charging the batteries for more. Won't be done for another year." "So what's it good for?" I asked. "I'm going to tell you," Dad said. "Like Uncle Bob told you, time travel is impossible because it takes too much energy. To go backwards in time requires more energy than exists in the entire universe. So we can't go backward. And of course we're all going forward in time at about the same rate." "What about the time traveler that H.G. Wells wrote about?" I protested. "He did it." "That's not quite true," Uncle Bob said. "He never went forward or backward in time." "He did too," I exclaimed. "Time rates, oh heck, you explain it, Roger. You're the one who studied the darn thing." Well, that's all that we have time for on this episode of Uncle Milo's Story Corner. And part 2 of this story, When You Wish Upon a Star, will be coming up next. So tune in for the next episode of Uncle Milo's Story Corner.